Hello, sweet friend. My name is Maike, and in this video, I would like to journal with you. I want to create an illustrated journal spread using only one ink color and one marker color for accents. And I'll be journaling in my Passport TN weekly. And as you can see, I've already sketched in my designs. And throughout this video, I am going to talk you through how I decide where to put the darker ink color to create contrast, and then how I decide where to put in some colorful accents so that at the end, even though I've only used two colors, the spread looks balanced and lively and fun to look at. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, let's get started. All right, for the colors, I chose a beautiful green ink. This is Wearingeul Autumn Night After 1,000 Years. And to turn this into somewhat of a spring color palette, I paired it with a lavender colored Tombow marker. Whenever I create journal spreads with a limited color palette, I still go ahead and outline all of my drawings prior to knowing where I'm going to add dark areas and the accent color. So I don't particularly design the dark shapes in advance. And you will see here that this kitty ended up having a filled in dark hat that wasn't planned. I just made a mistake with one of the lines, and so I decided to turn it into a hat. But other than that, everything else is going to just be straight up outline. And I think of my lines as the base, and I find it easier to make decisions on where I want to add color once I see the whole drawing. If you've seen some of my recent videos, you will know that I'm keeping a separate illustrated journal this year, in which I also only use one ink color and one marker per spread. And I've come to really appreciate the simplicity of that setup. And I like that the drawings have quite a graphic look to them because of the stark contrast. But then the accent with the marker still helps to add a liveliness to the designs. It adds, maybe verisimilitude is the right word for that, because then you can imply that there's other details in the world or in the environment of the characters. And so, that's really useful. And then for this spread in particular, I decided to do all of the characters as cats and dogs. I don't know, it's just so fun. I just love animal characters so much, and these designs fit the spaces so well. And so that was partially also a practical decision. And then this here, you'll see with the dog in particular, I'm struggling a little bit with this fountain pen. There's something going on. I'm not quite sure if I just need to clean the nib out again, or if it's the shimmer that's in the ink that is causing this, but I'm having a couple hard starts, and so I'll draw a line or try to fill in a space, and then the ink is not coming out, which is very, very frustrating. So all right, now that we have the line art, we can get into the more interesting part, and that is to decide where our dark areas are gonna go, that we're gonna draw in with the same ink color. And for that, I always ask myself, where is the heart of the story? Because that is the place that I wanna put the most contrast, because then your eye is gonna feel drawn to that. And then everything else gets less important and therefore gets less contrast. So for Monday, when I was at Half Price Books, which is a discount bookseller, I was actually halfway reading a book. And so, of course, then this is the heart of the story. And so in this case, it would also be good to distinguish between the shirt, where the shirt is, and where the book is. And so this is a pretty easy decision. And am I in frame? Yes, I think so. I'm just gonna color in her shirt. And since I do want to have some lines to indicate where the sleeve or the arm is, I'm just gonna leave those out and kind of draw my own white lines by leaving some space blank, just like this. And of course it could be a little easier if you decided from the get-go where your dark areas are gonna go, and then, you know, maybe you would have not put in that dark line. But so far I feel like I haven't run into that many issues for that to be the case, and so it works pretty well for me to just do all the lines and then decide where the dark areas are gonna go. And then because it's a book place, a bookseller, I do think it would be fun to also highlight this bookshelf. And so I'm just gonna do the wood part, like so. I think that's gonna be nice. And of course, this is the soothing part where you're just coloring in. Let me know, are you someone who does adult coloring books? And if so, do you have favorites? Let me know. I think there's some really, really beautiful ones out there for sure. All right, we'll leave it at that and revisit this one once we get into the spot color. Now on this Tuesday, it finally got warm enough that the ice melted, and I did see some birds hopping around. I think they were really, really happy. And so, of course, the birdie is the most important part. And so I want to color in its head here. I could also color in the grass that we finally were able to see again, but I think that would also be too dark and you would lose some of this shape. I think I would have designed the grass a little differently if I was going to do that. And then maybe we'll just accent the tip of the wing because it helps it stand out from the body and just helps communicate bird. And I think that's all that this one needs, really. And then for Wednesday, Thursday, I combined these days because it was a lot of drawing over those 2 days, and then I had pain in my arm. And so, yeah, this is a little bit of almost like a mini comic. And so I guess we want to highlight that I was drawing, but I think because this area is so small, I think it would be easier to highlight the pen by way of using the accent color. And maybe I'm wrong about that. I think it might be nice to just color in the shirt and have like a 1, 2, 3 shirt darkness going on. I also think there's something really nice that is now happening in terms of the page design as a whole, where you get this really nice curve or this path moving along down the page in a very nice swoopy motion. So that's really nice. So, you know, that's a double whammy there in terms of deciding where the darks go. And I think overall this page can stand to have this many bigger dark shapes down here. So that's a consideration too. Just always going from the small thing to the big one, zooming in and out can be really helpful in that regard. And I'm not seeing too much shimmer come out, which is a little bit of a bummer because I was really hoping to get some fun shimmer. I must say though that this was the last bit of my sample for this Wearingeul ink, and I had a little bit of a hard time even getting a full fill out of the sample vial, and so I think that has something to do with it. I think there's just there wasn't a lot of shimmer that I put into the cartridge that I put in here, so that's not necessarily the pen's fault or the ink's fault. It's just happens, I guess. I mean, this green color is nice also on its own, but oh, very streaky right here. Maybe I'll have my hand there, I'm not sure. And then this one right here. It is so fun to use these little kitties because they're so compact in their design. And so for something like this, Passport is already so small, and then the fact that you only have this horizontal sliver of the page for each day obviously means that there's not a lot of space, but every time I'm quite surprised just how much you can actually fit. So yeah, I like Passport size. Sometimes actually you think I might enjoy it even more than A6, but not quite sure. All right, I think that looks really good. Yeah, I think that has a nice flow to it, and we can follow all of these stories. We're not drawn to secondary, tertiary aspects. All right, well, what worked for this page obviously also is going to work for this one. And so we're doing the same thing. Yeah, his expression changed quite a bit here while I was drawing, which is a little bit like, oh, well. So it really is about this Friday the 13th. So I'm obviously going to color this in with the accent color. So we just just have fun with their outfits, really, because there's nothing else around it. And so how about we give the dog dark ears, because that's nice for framing the face. And then I like dogs with long big ears, and you can scrunch them. And then, just as I was explaining with the curves around the opposite page, you can do the same thing within a drawing, or I often find myself doing that. So there's a dark area up top, and so then my hand kind of naturally, or my eyes, I'm not sure, or both together, want to put a dark color here on her shirt. And although I found that the medium nib on here is almost too big for doing these drawings, it is quite helpful for coloring in because it's a little faster. I guess if I had any of this color left in my sample vial, I could also get a brush and do that. All right, and so then we just follow the curve and just go with the shoes. Now, I don't like that the shirt and the pants are all just white, even if I go in with the accent color. And so I think I'm gonna give his pants some stripes. Cute. All right, now pizza. Of course, the pizza is the main thing. I guess the plate could really be help to frame this piece of pizza. I'm hesitating because I'm not sure if it's just gonna turn into this blob, but maybe not. I could leave some white lines here to indicate that this is a paper plate, and that would give it some interest and some like shapes cutting into it and help it not be a blob. Let's go for it. If you're really unsure, you could also take a separate piece of paper that is a little thinner, and then you can try out where you're putting your colors. Yeah, I think that's actually not bad. And then, of course, I could also bring even more contrast and kind of like frame the pizza if I did the shirt. Plus we get, again, our connecting curve. But I think for this one, also just to do something different, we're just gonna do the little scarf or necktie, or yeah, I don't know what you call this. Like so, just as a cute little accent. And then for this one, actually, the shirt might be a better fit because that also helps to separate the pizza from the shirt, and then the pizza pops because it is against that solid dark shape of the shirt. Fun. Drawing with green is really nice. Very soothing. Do you have a favorite color to draw with? All right. Looking good. And then last one. So we were compiling some questions for a CPA meeting. So here really the story is what we're writing on this notepad. And so I'm thinking, let's do the pants actually. Just to give it some contrast here. And also to do something different other than we did color in a lot of shirts, I guess. And again, you could even get more granular and teach yourself a couple go-to patterns, some that are more tight together, so the overall effect is darker, and some that are lighter, and then you can, that could be really, really fun. Do I do the, I think I'm still gonna do the ears. I do think that is cute to just frame the face that way. And it reads more like, oh, that's a dog because there's the big ears. And then, for the kitty, I think I'm gonna do the scarf again, actually. We'll see. Yeah, there's something going on with the way the ink is coming out of this fountain pen right now. I'm not quite sure what's going on. Has some hard starts every now and again. Yeah, I think that overall effect is good. What do you think? The ink color is already helping with making this readable and has some oomph to it. All right, now going with the Tombow 620. This is sort of like a lavenderish color. And here we're just gonna have some fun. Here we can ask ourselves what else is important, or what else do we wanna separate against each other, like different layers, different visuals that maybe are blending into one another a little bit too much with just the one ink color. And so I think we could bring some visual interest to this book cover and just kind of pretend that there's something going on there. We don't even have to color in the whole thing, I don't think. Same with this, just popping in some accents just to make this feel more alive, and there would be variety in real life too, and you're just simplifying it because you're using one color rather than all the colors. And the same thing could go on here. Yeah, let's just, and this green color is not waterproof ink, of course, so it is smudging, and so sometimes you get a little bit of green in there. And if I draw bigger, I sometimes pay attention to not go over the ink lines all too much. But because this is so small, I think I want to color in this chair so that it is separate from the pants and the feet. Yeah, I think that works well. And then here, now we can think about maybe coloring in the grass, because that makes it seem thicker and frames the birdie pretty well, but it still goes with the lines. It doesn't change their wispiness, so to speak. Yeah. And here, again, this is also now creating a line that one can follow. So that's really nice too. They kind of, you know. So then here with sketchbooks or journals, I often put color around what is supposed to be the white page. I think that's really nice. And then maybe the crayon box, just to draw a little bit more attention that there's some other crayons back there. That's nice. And here, this is my iPad. I don't know if that's... I mean, it just looks like a rectangle, doesn't it? Yeah, and then here, I mean, obviously the important part is the paint, so maybe I'll just actually add some attention to these no pain lines. That's a thing, right? And then here, as I said, I think the most important thing is that it was Friday the 13th. Now, I gotta be honest, we don't really pay attention to that, but also nothing super exciting happened on that day, so I thought it would be kind of cute to draw these two and have them be kind of skeptical and wary about what's going on around them. I mean, it's always good to be wary about things that are going on around you, but yeah. I mean, I could also do some kind of emphasis lines, but I don't know. Yeah, I think I'll leave it abstract like that. And so, as I'd already kind of decided on with the dark inks, I really wanted his shirt to pop, to give him some color. And so then, because that both shirts are now really have a lot of things going on with the dark color and the accent color, just the shoes on her, I think that's enough. And then I think here I'm gonna do the shirt. And one thing with this beautiful lavender color, I'm a little hesitant to do the cheekies. Sometimes it's kind of fun to still indicate cheek color, even though your marker isn't a typical blush color. That can still be really, really fun, but yeah, I'm a little hesitant right now. And then let's just do purple mushrooms, because yes. That seems like a very good idea. And then let's do this shirt too, because it helps, again, bring emphasis to the writing on the notepad, and also because the face is already so white. And then so we have two big shapes that are the same value if you left it paper, I think. And then let's give her a shirt, purple shirt. Cute. All right. I could fill in the writing, but maybe I'll just sometimes, if I don't want to draw too much attention to the writing, but I still kind of feel like, oh, but it could use at least a little bit of color and emphasis. What's really fun is you can do a drop shadow or just shadow. And this is the brush tip here is almost too big to really get in there and do this neatly. So we just dab it on there. And of course I could use the backside here with the bullet tip, but sometimes that gets really streaky, I find, and not really what I'm going for. It might make it easier to put on a drop shadow, but it also might give it too much attention, you know? Yeah, what do we think? What do we think? I think that looks good. In terms of where the darks are. It has a nice flow to it. Nothing seems too colorless. What do you think? Yeah, I think that's that worked out just fine. I hope this video was helpful or inspiring in some way. Let me know in the comments, are you going to create your own journal spread with just one ink color and one marker? And yeah, thanks so much for sharing this time with me. And until next time, happy journaling!